So ahead of us, a presentation of Adam Czernenko. Adam comes from Subice. He graduated the college, photography college and artistic faculty in Zielona Góra. He is also passionate about photography. He can observe everything, and practically every year he's got his exhibition. He doesn't always open his exhibition, so I'm happy to have him this year, and I think that he's the best person to tell us about this exhibition this year. Indeed, I'm a native resident of Słubice, so I couldn't open my exhibition last year, so I'll do my best this year. Anti-Spaces, that's the title of my exhibition. And I think that this title has become a bit out of date by now, because the idea for my photos has changed meanwhile, but after the lectures today, I know it could be called D-spaces. So anti-spaces, the topic, the theme this year was quite a challenge because it undertakes several important matters. We also know the context. We've heard many words on space. So I'm not going to say that it can be theoretical, that it can be filled with content, with vessels. However, the notion of emptiness is, for me, a humanistic term. It's not a term that you can trace in any visual values. In my opinion, that's impossible. And because it's a humanistic term, you can treat it very emotionally, and it also refers to emotions. So that was my point of view for further thoughts on this topic. So, space can be presented in photography in a very varied ways, and each photographer knows about that. However, it's a bigger challenge to present content. Tournau said once, so there's a quote, that lack of shadow proves non-existence. And this quote met me quite recently. So the next step was to develop my idea about space. I wanted to make it in a very straight and forward way. You can do that quite easily, but to add it another dimension, a different understanding, I thought I needed to do something else. So certainly the shade and everything that goes with it, lack of light, some relation to light, objects, but what objects? Because I'm very keen on nature and contact with nature. I often observe nature. I walk on meadows, and while walking on a meadow, I got this idea that while observing the entire vegetation cycle of plants, very briefly before this festival, the nature has done its job, but it still has beautiful shapes and colors, and that has some symbolic dimension for me. So I started to think what to do. I decided to create bouquets from dry plants, flowers, using my friends and artists, my daughter Hania. Come here, show yourself, Hania. So I started looking for a relationship between space and meaning of emptiness and absence, and some kind of absence, lack of something. And I started to construct. The photos that you can see behind me are three-dimensional, so I will encourage you to use the glasses there, because it turned out that there is the third dimensions, that the world presented in the pictures, especially the backgrounds where the shades are projected. These are the shapes of plants lit by spotlight using anaglyphs photography. They get some space, and that's a paradox because shadow doesn't have space. But in anaglyph technology with very little manipulation, it turns out that shade can get some space, and the world that reveals behind it is just a screen to project the things, and it's in fact two-dimensional. And within this area, I decided to build this tension in the full sense of this meaning, space and emptiness. The space you'll be able to see through the glasses is in fact woven out of nothing, from lack of light. But the shade has yet another connotation for me. It's a kind of memory. There are some projects, the topic of shadow appears here as well. So shade is a form of registering memories, recollections. And in fact, one's emotions are shift from feeling of discomfort and lack. Sometimes emptiness is quite painful to the area of experience and memory. Then this element can be understood and seen in a slightly different way as permeating world that leaves lots of traces, that gets into the into experience of many of us. I'm of course talking in a more general context now, not only about herbs and plants. And in this context, this main topic, leitmotif, I would define in my photos not as much as space and emptiness, but as space and memory. And I hope that you'll see these photos through this prism. Thank you. Adam Czernenko is known. We discuss about photography together a lot, about some concepts and the content. And he always gets very well prepared to projects when I tell him what's the topic for each edition. And he immediately adds, "Oh yes, I got something in my mind. Yeah, I'm thinking." And then he starts to deepen in, and I think that labyrinth really inspires him, for him to fulfill the topic, to make it work in the final form and in this well-thought speech. Thank you, Adam, for being here and creating. For me, the labyrinth is one of the few occasions to actually think. Big applause. And just a moment, you'll see in a moment the wonderful effects you can see in the photos. But because we are all here gathered together, because the